Gmove, wassa to another episode of the MOVECAST. Today, guest which we had already on the pod, it's Torab, these days being the chief of the Moveindustries. Back days it was the chief of business development. Hey Torab, how are you doing today?
Good, man. You move. Been good. It's been a while since we spoke. A lot has changed since then, and mostly for the better. But yeah, man, nice to reconnect.
Yes, really happy to have you on the pod as well. I hope to speak with Will soon as well, but yeah, today it's great to have you here. Um, we had a lot of stuff happening last weeks, last months, so I think we have a lot to talk. Um, Maybe you can just give your impression what's happening at the moment on the movement. Obviously, we're going through a major transition. Um, can you tell us maybe what it's all about and what does it actually mean for movement's future?
Yeah, so if you're listening to this right now, it's Thursday, June 26th, and I think you're going to end up going to Cannes in France, and you'll meet with Will and probably have the a podcast episode there as well. So from
Yes.
our side, obviously, we I was one of the founding team members at Movement Labs. That's how you guys all know me. And then since then, we created Move Industries, which is a forward-looking organization. Essentially, Move Industries is now the steward of the movement ecosystem. And right now, as of right now, I am the CEO, and I've been really happy with what we've been able to accomplish since taking over. I think the two really big feathers in our caps have been the move drop, being able to deliver the move drop because it just was way too long. And honestly, I mentioned it before. We didn't deserve our community, and the fact that they stuck through with all of this, drama that unfolded. But happy that they were able to get their move drop. And then the second big thing is the Monza upgrade. So that was a really big deal. And shout out to Young, who is our CTO. We were able to drop latency from 6 seconds to 1 second, able to get TPS up to upwards of 300, where it was around 100 before, so 3xing TPS, and then reducing latency by about 80 something percent. So those are all really big deals. But again, the most important part is that the on-chain experience is good. So when I have the gorillas and the users and the builders all pinging me saying, "Oh my God, this is amazing," that's what puts a smile on your face and makes you feel like you accomplished something, right? So those are like the big wins for us as an ecosystem, and it's important that we celebrate them, but at the same time still want to be better, right? So obviously we are just getting started, but yeah, I think from the last time we spoke, those are the two really big um, success stories that we've had. And then, of course, DeFi Spring has started. So, if you have Move tokens, there's a lot you can do in the ecosystem. If you have stables, wrapped BTC, most of the ETH LRTs as well, there's a home in the movement ecosystem for you. So, and then on top of that, NFTs, all that jazz. But, anyways, I don't want to jump in front of the questions that I think you were planning on asking.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you already mentioned a lot of stuff which happened last weeks. You mentioned the Monza upgrade, but can you give us an idea which like whole the whole vision is on the technical side, where movement is heading to, and at which step we are? You mentioned we are at the start. So what's heading next to us?
At the end of the day, there's all these chains that talk about our TPS is this, our latency is this, but ultimately no one cares. As long as there's like a minimally viable speed that you just want to be able to like do swaps or do mints where you don't feel like you're waiting, right? You just want to say, okay, it's done. Now, if you're a high frequency trade, it's a little bit different, but from our perspective, it's kind of like, if you have a car, if it's like 3,000 horsepower versus 3,300 horsepower, does it really matter? What you really care about is how does it feel when you drive the car, the cost, the gas, all that type of stuff. So from our perspective, what we want to do is build the premier Move blockchain. And there's different stakeholders, right? So from one side, you have the builders. We want to create a great developer experience so that if you're a builder, you can come to Movement, have all the tooling you need, have all the support you need, whether that support be go to market, just marketing in general, the tech tools, or investor eyeballs, right? Because ultimately, if you're a builder, what you want is to build in a place where there's a lot of users and a lot of support. And so that support comes in many different facets, not just a grant. Most of these teams, they need help with their go-to-market strategies, ideas. So many people come to me asking, what can we do in the ecosystem, right? Or what does the ecosystem need? And I hate to tell people the answer. I say, hey, here's some people you can go ask, because I want them to be able to also dig a little bit, because if you're solving a problem, you'll always have a place at the table. And so from my perspective, that's one aspect of it. And then the second is building a chain where a non-crypto native person will be using it and not even know it's crypto, right? So a lot of that revolves around account abstraction, and you're definitely going to need, the ability to on-ramp, off-ramp capital. So those type of things. So ultimately, from my perspective, there's so many different chains, but there's not that much of a technical moat that I've seen across the board where you can only do something on one specific chain. And so I do think we'll probably see a little bit more specialization. But from our perspective, right now, it's being the best place for builders to build, and a great place for new users to crypto to be able to find cool things to do. So that's ultimately my goal. And so we're in the process. And so I've been pretty proud of our progress up to this point.
Yeah, great to hear. You already mentioned there are a lot of chains out there in the space. Movement, obviously, as the name says, is down to the Move language, right? And when we look on the Move, there are Sui and Aptos. Can you tell us a little bit how you are differentiating from those other big players on the Move language? What makes Movement special?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things, right? When you think about an ecosystem, when you think about where you want to build, if you talk to a builder, they don't say, I want to build on this chain because they have really high TPS. Or again, they have really low latency, and I can only survive if I have that exact, those technical specs. What people really, again, if I'm a builder, I want to build something that people want to use. And how do I get my product in front of as many people as possible? And so from my perspective, Movement is the builder chain, right? So we're crypto native folks. We don't come from these big Web 2 backgrounds. Now, obviously, I did work in Web 2, but that's not how I built my name in the crypto scene, right? And so from my perspective, if you look at our team, it's very similar, where what we want to do is build a crypto native community that can also reach to the masses, and that we create a home and we have those vibes, right? So when instead of me saying it, I can tell you, when I ask builders, they just tell me the vibes are really good and we feel like we get a fair chance at building. And then also the community, right? So for example, you're part of the Gorilla community, which is easily our strongest community in the movement ecosystem. So you see, like, when the price was low and all the drama was unfolding, they were still able to support. And that actually goes a long way, because there's a lot of blockchains, but not a lot of communities that actually support them, right? So before a token launches or before a chain launches, it's the best thing, it's the fastest thing, it's going to change the future of France. And then once it launches, then it kind of fizzles out. And that is a natural progression, because I think as crypto people and just human beings in general, we really lionize something to a point where it can never live up to the hype. And then afterward is when you figure out who is my real community, right? So, there's the joke, like, you'll know after the airdrop who your real community is, because then the airdrop farmer just kind of move on. And so one thing that's been amazing is, honestly, it was shocking me how strong of a community we have post, the things that happen and the move drop and everything. And so from my perspective, I would say it's the community and it's the commitment to helping the builders. And one thing that I don't plan on ever doing is building products that compete with my own builders. Philosophically, I'm pretty against it, because it feels like you're cannibalizing your own ecosystem. And as I've said, I think we said this on the last podcast, today, let's say you compete with me on a wallet, tomorrow it might be on a lending protocol, right? So if you're a builder, you'll never know, is today the day that I wake up and, let's say, Movement decides that they're going to build a competitor to my product. And I don't think that's healthy in the ecosystem, especially if we're saying we're Web3. I just don't see it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you guys are all having all those town halls, all this Telegram groups and stuff for the builders. And actually, from the Gorilla side, we are going through a process in which we are now using this channels as more actually as well. So especially we are looking not only being a community thing, but also establish kind of business and revenue stream. So, and that's something we learned. You guys are really great in helping us. So I think if somebody else comes from the outside and gets this direct help, it can give a huge advantage, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned you are looking into community and also new developers to onboard them. Um, but how do you have any plan you want to share with us? How you want to approach ecosystem growth? What kind of partnerships you are looking in? Is there something you are prioritizing?
Yeah, I think from a user experience on the chain, it always starts with a wallet, right? So we have like the nightly wallet, I would say, is probably leading the charge, and Norbert's been and his team have been amazing to work with. And of course, you have Razor Wallet as well. So in terms of user experience, one is, let's just say, the wallet, which I always consider the front end of the store, right? It's like the glass case that everyone sees when they walk by. And then it's when you walk in, like, is it slow? Is it clunky? Is there liquidity? These are the type of user experiences that you need to focus on. Now, obviously, movement is, first of all, the move language is newer, right? If you compare it to like SVM and Rust, and then you compare it to Solidity, of course, and Ethereum and all the EVM chains, it is the newest chain. And then it also has, I would probably say, the least amount of tooling and the least amount of developers, right? So from one perspective, that's a really bad thing because you just don't have as many people, which will, it has to limit you in terms of potential ideas, right? Because you're shrinking the pie. However, in that scenario where the pond is smaller, you get to be a bigger fish. So I think a lot of developers, if they have these ideas, when you come to the movement ecosystem, you can potentially be able to be first in certain verticals or niches where there's already established players in the EVM or, for example, on Solana, right? If you want to use those as examples. And so I think that opportunity is what gets people really excited as builders. And then, of course, there's like a few technical advantages, but ultimately, I personally still have not seen PMF, right? Product market fit, that is only possible with one particular chain up to this point. I mean, I guess you can make the argument for Hyperliquid because their latency is really low, but then there's trade-offs. But anyways, uh, yeah, I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, Moverz language is probably great. I'm now a developer to have an idea. I mean, I was doing a little bit Solidity, so I know what the pains are on Solidity, but I didn't develop on Move yet. But as I understood, it's easier and better to audit and stuff. But yeah, I think that at least that was always, as I knew movement, a big part of the vision to have the move language as a secure language, but also to enable getting people from the EVM over to move via Fractal. I think that's not the main focus at the moment or in the last weeks, but is that something you guys are still looking for the future? Like,
So, okay, so here's the thing, right? I believe this is still true that there's more developers at Facebook than there is in all of crypto combined, right? So our pie is really small. And I know some chains have done that where, they want to take away some Solidity devs or take away some SVM devs. But the reality is that you should just be reaching out for net new crypto devs. Because ultimately, if you think about it just from a basic economics perspective, if you're a Solidity dev, you can easily make a few $100,000 a year if you're like a competent Solidity dev and there's a bunch of protocols. Why in the hell would you learn a new language, come to a new ecosystem? Just from a pure economic perspective, it doesn't really make sense. And so I remember when I first joined back like over 2 years ago, we were thinking, hey, Move is a Rust-based language. Why don't we go after some of the Solana devs, right? And since they already know Rust. But that was right on the heels of the FTX collapse. So those people who stayed in the Solana ecosystem, they're never leaving, right? So for me to spend my time and efforts to go after those people who are diehards, it's just a bad it is definitely not the lowest hanging fruit, and it's a waste of time, right? What we should be doing is going to colleges, going to campuses, making people aware that there is this Move language. It was developed by Facebook. They spent billions of dollars in R&D. Now it's open sourced. Everyone can use it. And hey, here's an ecosystem where you can come, get support, and build cool stuff. And so I think that is a much better strategy than going after existing Solidity devs, because they're already making good money, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And as I said, incentives have to be really, really huge to make them move from Solidity to another language.
Yeah, but one thing I will say in that vein is I do believe that in terms of mental horsepower, like Ethereum leads the charge, right? When you look at the caliber of builders, now, not to be unfair to other ecosystems, but the reality is that they've been around longer, and the original crypto cypherpunk type folks that got into it, they're like, if you look at the average age of a developer across, let's say, in crypto, Solidity, Rust, and Move, the Move developers are clearly the youngest, right? So generally, you're going to have builders, it's their first time building versus people who are serial builders. And so, from my perspective, another thing that I'm really focused on is it's not just the quantity of builders, it's getting really high caliber builders with great visions, right? So, that from my perspective is what I'm really focused on, because ultimately, from my perspective, I believe that success and product market fit follows talent. So if you get a bunch of talent, you will eventually get products that people want to use. But if you get, you know, thousands of really mediocre people, you just generally are going to have a hard time achieving greatness, right? So from my perspective, it's finding the people that are really motivated, really strong builders, and have a desire and passion for crypto, and not people who are just like, hey, I could probably make, extra 25% in salary by switching to crypto. Those people generally fizzle out when the times get tough. So you need people who have strong resolve, and who truly believe in the ethos of crypto in general.
Yeah, totally understand it for the developer side. But when I think about it, how can you attract like other investors, traders, DeFi degens? Do you have a strategy to get them?
Look, the reality is that when you talk about degens and traders and all that jazz, all that really matters to them is making money, right? So if it was just about fun, we would still have NFTs were fun, right? But ultimately, people liked NFTs because they were able to make money. Right now, pump.fun is the meta. People are able to gamble, make lots of money really fast, and lose lots of money really fast. Hyperliquid, it's traders, right? It is a perps platform, and so people use it to make money. And obviously, when that huge airdrop really bootstrapped the ecosystem, and they just did everything perfect. I will say, like Hyperliquid is amazing, the product is amazing, the team is amazing. But ultimately, you need to be able to provide economic upward mobility for your ecosystem. You need to create wealth effects for you to hold an ecosystem together. And so obviously we have a few teams that are going to be having TGEs. We have a few teams launching really cool products. And I believe a lot of them will be probably happening towards the end of Q3, beginning of Q4, just because, the teams reach out to me. So I think that it's on the horizon. And also now that we had the network upgrade, now meme coin season can start, NFT season can start. Obviously it already started, but now that you have a much higher performant chain, a much more performant chain, it just makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, totally. And I think everybody who's using the chain after the move drop experienced this big change with Monza, which is making it incredibly
I don't
fast.
know. What are your thoughts? Like, I know this is, be fully honest, like what was the experience before and what is experience now from your perspective?
Well, it was before the monster upgrade. It was sometimes really annoying because you had to push some transactions quite often because it didn't go through, or it took quite a long time. And with Monster, I mean it's always hard because I'm not jumping too much on other chains at the moment. So at the moment I'm um, quite much on movement. I mean, a little bit on Ethereum, of course, but so I can't really tell you if that's like the latest state of the art. Maybe somewhere, I don't know if you can even measure if it's half of a second faster somewhere else. But as you mentioned before, I don't think it really matters if it's 0.1 or 0.2 seconds, because that doesn't change much. So I think at the state which it's after Monza, it's really good usable. I think there are um, some problems sometimes with the RPCs, which are sometimes maybe not completely connected with some apps, but I don't. I think maybe that's connected to the dApps, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, before there was like one leader node, and now people can run their own nodes, right? So that's a big deal, and that was one of the main issues that a lot of our builders had. And so I think the main point here is that there's a pretty stark contrast in terms of where the performance was before and where it is today, just in our own ecosystem, right? Not necessarily comparative to others. It was more so just, a lot of people reached out to me saying, thank God for this upgrade. And a lot of teams are launching products saying, finally, now I can launch what I wanted to launch because it was somewhat unusable. And it's okay. It's okay to say that, hey, you know what? It was pretty bad before. The experience was pretty bad, but it's better now. It's okay. And even right now, if there's things we can do better, we want the feedback because it's important. We're not a team, or at least myself, I can speak for myself. If you tell me, hey, this experience is really bad, or I really don't like this, that helps me because ultimately I'm building the product for you. I'm not building it for myself, right? So if the user, I always use the example of if you're serving a burger and someone says, hey, it's too salty. If I turn around and say, I don't care, it's the perfect amount of salt, I'm in the wrong business, right? Because ultimately it's for you. Uh, and so that is how we think about it. So we want to take a lot of our user feedback, and obviously the community's been great in providing it in a constructive way and not just saying you guys suck. Although they have been doing that about the move drop, but it's okay. I still love you.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I think stuff was happening. It took some time. People who are still into it are still here. Some moved on, which is obviously happening, which is normal, I think. People are getting airdrops and then move on to next opportunities. I think that will never really change. But yeah, I think, as you mentioned, what is special is there is a community. There is a lot of happening, a lot is building, and in the end, it's still quite a young chain. And I think you can't really expect having a product from day one being perfect, and it's evolving like everything. And I don't know if something like, I don't know, staking and stuff will come at some point. Um, so because that's
Don't
still,
be
if you,
surprised if it does. Yeah, don't be surprised if it does before the end of the year.
yeah. And I think that's a lot of stuff which will come, which people don't really even have in mind, because they sometimes are only in this moment, like being totally focused on a drop for an airdrop or something on the mainnet not happening or not functioning. But yeah, once you have this longer vision and this longer future direction, I think yeah, people are at some point turning to this again. So maybe to lead this to a question, can you maybe explain us where you see the movement heading to in the next 6 to 12 months?
Oh man, that's hard to know, but I think from our perspective, number one is just continuously upgrading the network, providing better developer tooling. Right now, our developer tooling is lackluster. The DevX is lackluster. So right now, I'm focused on bringing in the right builders and partners to be able to provide a way better experience. In addition, obviously, our engineering team is busting their butts to make sure that we get a much more performant chain. And then, of course, on the BD side, right? So there's two. One is the crypto native, and one is the more enterprise institutional route. And so we recently hired Colin since we last spoke. He used to be the head of institution at Polygon. He is now our global head of institution here at Movement. And he has incredible inroads into a lot of the big TradFi names. And a lot of these people, what's been interesting is they already know about the Move language because back when Facebook was building DM/Libra, a lot of these teams actually already did their due diligence on the Move language. So when I've met with a lot of these teams, and when I really don't have to sell them on the Move VM because they've already done a lot of due diligence. And so that's been a breath of fresh air. So it's kind of cool that Facebook kind of paved the path for us. So I think from our side, it's bringing actual use cases. Because look, TVL, these type of things, they're really vanity metrics, right? So if I say there's a billion TVL, but you get 3% slippage on $1,000 swap for like the native token, it doesn't really matter, right? There's specific types of liquidity that matter. You also want velocity of money. You want money changing hands. You want people borrowing, putting it into ecosystem. So those are the type of things I'm more worried about. And so to answer your question, it's essentially building the tooling for users and builders to be able to have fun, but also build really cool things and do really cool things. So that is high level what we're focused on. I think right now there's a propensity for chains to say we're the X chain, right? We're the AI chain. You know, they were saying that 6 months ago. Where's that now, right? Like a lot of that AI hype has kind of died. Now, obviously, every time I go to a cafe, people are using ChatGPT and Claude and different things. But the point more so is if you just build really cool things, like, and you give people the tools, like I don't have to tell them what to build; they will just build cool things. And so, and sometimes what you build something for ends up being the springboard for something else. For example, on Solana, Solana was known as the NFT chain, right? So they built like these sniper tools and bots and all that jazz. And that almost that exact same infrastructure was just used now for meme coins, right? So sometimes you just build cool things and then you don't know uh, when and where and how it's going to be used. So I think from our perspective, it's not trying to be too myopic in the way in what we believe the future is going to hold. It's we have to start basic and then you build it up pyramid style.
Yeah, totally agree. And do you have any, like, because you mentioned them, any use cases in mind which maybe might look really good on Move or might function really good on Move?
So one of the projects that I'm or initiatives I'm really excited about is being able to bring institutional grade yield, AAA products to the movement users. So one thing that we found is we have incredible, in marketing they call it penetration, right? There's a lot of users and builders in Turkey, right? I'm just looking at the guerrilla community, right? In Nigeria, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia. And these are also places where there's a lot of demand for stable coins, right? Because a lot of these countries, they're dealing with currency issues. So and again, what I'm saying is not new. This is like a meta, but but there's a secret sauce that movement has. But essentially, to finish my thought, is you bring this institutional yield and you allow users in countries that generally never have access to these type of products have access to it on chain. So, for example, I am a Turkish college student in Istanbul and I have crypto, and the lira is just having a lot of issues against the dollar. And I remember I think I mentioned this before when I was in Turkey, a lot of the restaurants they have dry erase markers for the prices because it fluctuates so much that it just doesn't make sense for them to print it. So they have to use dry erase markers. And so imagine you're a student, and not only are you able to save your money in dollars, you're able to earn in dollars, right? And so being able to bring that type of access to these users who maybe they don't even have a bank account, but they somehow have access to a product that only accredited investors have historically had access to, that to me is really interesting, and it's much more in line with why I got into crypto, right? I got in because of Andres Antonopoulos, Seyfedin Amos, and these other, like essentially being able to bank the unbanked and help people out of this monetary hellhole. Although you can argue, well, then why are you propagating the stable coin instead of Bitcoin? But the point is we're starting here. And so for a lot of users being able to, again, save in dollars and earn in dollars is a huge service to them, right? And then obviously having that instant liquidity because everything's on chain, being able to swap in and out. So that's the type of product and use case that really excites me.
And I think because you mentioned the stables at the moment, quite a lot happening in the US with the Genius Act. I don't know if that's
Yep.
something you guys are involved as well, like, I don't know, looking into it or something.
Yeah, it's we'll see what the downstream effects are. Obviously, things are trending in the right direction. Some of the new appointees by Trump, they're obviously very pro crypto. There's all the legislation that's pro crypto. There's
Mm.
states trying to build their own stable coins, as you've probably seen. So I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. And I was recently at Bitcoin Vegas and seeing a lot of these TradFi companies get really excited. Like there's this new Nakamoto, right? Meta, or the company called Nakamoto, and essentially what they do is they help teams put Bitcoin on their balance sheets. And so once you start getting all these big TradFi funds and publicly traded companies to get Bitcoin on their ledgers, it creates a lot of demand. And so obviously this is all from Grandpapa Michael Saylor, right, who kind of set the stage for everyone. So that's also pretty exciting.
Yeah, let's see what the future brings. But really happy to see movement being in all this stuff. Yeah, happening. Um, yeah, you mentioned before a lot of the community. Also, you mentioned already Gorilla Movers, which were obviously from the beginning here, so they are kind of the OG community. Can you explain us which role do the gorillas have for movement, and yeah, maybe explain us which path do you see for them in the future in movement?
What I can tell you, maybe from my perspective, is the gorilla community is probably the greatest silver lining throughout this entire process is that through thick and thin, they were there with us again during our worst times. Every time, I put out a post that maybe it was good news or maybe it was bad news. You see Wassa Wassa, you see the G moves, you see the gorillas in their Twitter handles and all that jazz. And uh, it means a lot. And at the same time, like you guys are like your own thing. I feel that you guys are like your own nation state inside of movement, and so it's been pretty cool to see. And one thing that I would love to do is to go on a tour, like a guerrilla tour. I think it'd be really cool, right, to go to like our big hubs. I've been meaning to go. Like I know we have a in Europe, in Istanbul, in Nigeria. Like I want to go there. I want to meet the builders. Actually, I have my gorilla NFT. I'll probably make it my PFP soon, but I definitely want it on a shirt and a hat as well. So I'll probably get that custom made for my gorilla because I like mine. He looks rare. But ultimately, all like NFTs essentially enabled tribalism. And I mean that in a good way, right? Where people can rally around a specific thing. And generally now people do it around meme tokens or around like the ecosystem token, but also around NFTs. And so again, I've been shocked by how amazing the community and how supportive they've been through everything over the past 2 years. So kudos to you as one of the leaders in amongst the gorillas. And all I can do is try to support as much as I can. But ultimately, this is your ecosystem, right? I don't tell you guys what to. You tell me what you want, and I will do everything I can to enable you guys, right? So, and I think you guys are going to be a special part of our future in terms of distribution and community and outreach. So, if we're going to break that mold of PvP, where we're just asking for the same builders across all the different chains, I think gorillas are actually going to be pivotal for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, we try to head into this direction as well, reaching out to other ecosystems, other projects, obviously to bring them to the movement, to show them the power of the move language. We have for sure some formats which we can use, like the Was on the Move, which is the Discord AMA series. I mean, the MOVECAST is also a part of the Gorilla Movers. And yeah, but what we are looking now is to get more touch of like revenue style. So to be able to live from own revenues, which we have to scale them maybe up. And yeah, really happy to see the movement's support on this as well. And yeah, let's see what the future brings. But yeah, we are here for a reason. So, and the reason is, or like the vision always was, make movement big and supported. So I think that's still here and more to come in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean the gorillas, you mentioned already the NFT. And we saw a lot of NFTs already minting on the movement ecosystem. Are there any like plans or anything to foster the NFT ecosystem on movement?
Yeah, of course, right? Like ultimately, you just want the community to have fun. So I think we're gonna have a few campaigns coming up. I think right now we're actually just working on the timing. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's important that we have fun, but also like, people are, NFTs are changing hands, all that jazz. And ultimately, I think having cooler mechanisms for launching, before it was like launching 10,000 PFPs. And I think what we've learned from that is sometimes it's better to have a little bit less, make it a little more scarce. But ultimately, that's up to the community. But yes, we definitely are supporting, the launch pads. We will probably have a big trading campaign as well, which should be fun. But yeah, that's what I can share.
All right. Um, yeah, I think maybe we didn't speak about this really up to now, but the Parthenon is obviously one of the key products you guys have on the movement as well. I think that's one possibility how you can bind in NFTs and make utility for the NFTs as well. But maybe we can talk a little bit more about Parthenon, what the idea is, what makes it maybe special compared to other campaigns which you know from crypto, as I don't know, Galaxy or Zeely campaigns.
Well, I think part of it is just like the gamification of on-chain activities by the community for the community, and so and doing it in a novel way. So obviously, you saw the beta for V2. My engineering team asked me not to give any dates, so I won't. But I expect that pretty soon it will be live and ready to go. And I believe that, and I know for a fact that actually a lot of our ecosystem teams, our DeFi projects, NFT projects, they're already setting up their quests so that if you're new to the ecosystem and you come in like, hey, what can I do? What should I do? And what can I potentially be rewarded for doing? Uh, all that will be answered in Parthenon. And so I don't want to speak about other products, but I think in and of itself, it should be really cool for our ecosystem. And again, it's built for us by us, and I've only heard good things from our community. So I'm looking forward to be fully launched and then being able to utilize it because I actually have some really big campaigns in mind. I can't share the details now, but it will be pretty aggressive, we'll say. And I think people will be happy.
Yes, I really like the idea having this network of applications which kind of build on one platform, and then you use one, and it kind of makes you maybe even I don't know eligible for any incentives which those projects are maybe launching or something. I don't know if you can share anything, but is there anything planned from movement for Parthenon V2 as from incentive side, or is that is that something too early to ask?
I can neither confirm nor deny anything right now. I know what you're asking, but I can neither confirm nor deny. Um, but what I can say is that we plan on publishing a few updates really soon in terms of community incentives. And so stay tuned for that over the next, I'd say, few weeks.
Also, what was happening in the last days and weeks was the buyback of the Move token.
Hmm.
You already shared on your Twitter account some latest figures, and I think also the foundation did. Can you share something about this? Maybe when's the aim to finish? Or I think it was 38 million US dollar to be buybacked, right?
Yep. It was $38 million buyback. Uh, all I can say right now, again, we will publish updates very, very soon. But what I can tell you is that part of our new ethos or part of this transition to Moveindustries is being an organization that fulfills their promises and is transparent. And so we committed to it, and anything we commit to we will deliver on, right, to the best of our ability. So that's all I can say for now. Obviously you can see on chain the move reserves. Yeah.
Interesting to hear and to see. I mean, the publish of the podcast will be probably a little bit later.
Look,
So
yeah, but look, ultimately, people don't give a crap about anything. They just want to see price go up. I know I'm not supposed
yes,
to say anything about that on the podcast, but the point is like, ultimately, no one cares. Like, I think I tweeted, I was like, when token price go up, you can do no wrong. When token
yeah,
price go down, you can do no right. So ultimately, everyone veils it in very thin ways, but ultimately, all they care about is like, why is token price not going up? Um, and so that's the price you pay for ever having a token in the public markets, right? So it is what it is. And so because we're stewards of the ecosystem, the guns get pointed at me online. So it is that's just the cost of doing business.
yeah, For sure, but I think that's why it's even more important to have something like a vision. And you obviously shared this today, and you guys are looking forward to share more of this in the next time, as you mentioned, because for the community, it's also a lot easier if you have this vision. And once FUD is happening, like the gorillas did before, they are able to defend this if there's a vision and there's like a clear strategy which they can see and read. So yeah, really
Yeah,
happy to
we're
see.
gonna. I'm gonna provide a much more in-depth, but ultimately, if you think like I want movement to be the best place for developers, for Move developers to build, and just developers in general, and that covers a bunch of facets that I discussed. But also, I want it to be the chain that focuses on what I consider consumerify. To me, the way I define consumerify is someone is using a product that they don't even know, nor do they care that it's crypto on the back end, right? When they use a mobile app, do you care on your phone, like if you're on iOS, that it's Swift? You don't give a damn what language they're using. You just have a use case or a need that is being fulfilled. So, from my perspective, that is what I'm focused on. And I think that what we're seeing is a very app centric meta. But if you've been following it at all, it's always been the case. The blockchain should never be the main character. It is supposed to provide a platform, and on that platform you build really cool things, and our job is to just shine light on top of it. One of them is also community, right? So it's not about movement, it's about the gorillas, for example, as a community. Or you have these dapps like Bracket, who has this hooked mobile app, Uniswap, Mosaic, the different Canopy, right? So there's different cool projects being built in our ecosystem, and our job is to amplify them. But also, again, a lot of those projects are not necessarily bringing in brand new Web2 users. And for me, that's my focus, right? And ultimately, as a blockchain, you have to swing big. You have to think big, because going the safe route is the only way that you're guaranteed failure, right? So, because we all have the same downside risk, right? The whole crypto and like the market can nuke. So you might as well have upside and really swing big, and try as hard as you can. And so that's what my focus is on.
Yeah, great to hear. And yeah, you mentioned, and I think it's true. I mean, it's even true for TradFi at this moment. People are buying stocks and other financial products, and they don't even know how it's settled in the back end. So yeah, it means how, or it looks. It means much more how things look and how they make stuff maybe easier, but not how they are in the back settled and stuff.
Yeah. Yesterday, Kalshi, I don't know how to pronounce it, but essentially it's a prediction market. They raised $185 million round, right? So I think at a $2 billion valuation or something. So, and they are an app, right? They're not a chain, they're just an app. And so I think what we're realizing is that the apps own the users, right? And you see this in Web 2 a lot, right? It's like ultimately like they white label all these financial products, and all these neobanks, they're just new front stores. But it's like the restaurants where they actually get all their food from like the same, like from Costco or something. But it's just the way that, that's a very American thing I'm saying, by the way. But the point is you're seeing this a lot. And so I think that as ecosystems, they have to adapt and make it about the apps and find their exit velocity and help them find exit velocity. Like if you think about Polygon, like Poly Market is like their winner, right? That like it is what they are known for. And so I think every chain needs at least one or two, ideally three, four, of apps that really hit that exit velocity where an average person will use it without necessarily caring about crypto.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, really looking forward what is in the future of movement and its apps. Um, yeah, great outlook, I would say, great vision. Maybe to ask what makes you maybe confident that movement can reach this vision. Are there like arguments which you say we have this and this asset or this and this resources which make you confident?
Yeah, look, like, one of the, so this is always a funny thing where like you see random accusations on Twitter, and like people say it's just so funny because the problem is like the example I always give is if I say, Zadam, you're a porcupine. are you gonna now take your time to say, I'm not a porcupine, I'm a human being, and then you make this like you don't even want to engage. It's so ludicrous and so stupid that you don't want to respond. So when it's very hard because sometimes a stupid accusation that makes no sense kind of gains like wildfire. It spreads like wildfire. You're like, oh, do I really have to address this thing? But let me just lay it out there. We have years of runway. Our team is amazing. We've been so galvanized throughout this entire ordeal. We're more focused than ever. If anything, we now have we're the captains of our own destiny, which I think is really powerful, right, as a team. And so I think we're really excited about this new chapter. And ultimately, we believe that the move language enables a bunch of really cool use cases, right? And provides extra security. And that ultimately what we need to do is harness this energy and then bring it to the world. And so that's what we're focused on. And there's no point of me saying why I think we're going to be successful because ultimately we just have to prove it. So there's no point of me really saying anything except for it's going to take time and we're going to move as fast as we can. But it takes, the joke is it takes several years to become an overnight success. And so from our perspective, we had a little bit of a setback, but now we're just full steam forward.
All right. Yeah, maybe one last question before we wrap up things. You said before you want the community to grow or the ecosystem to grow, like getting new blood into the chain, more or less. What would you say? Once new people joining, there might be also something changing in culture. Do you see, or what would you wish the culture to move in which direction?
So we have a bunch of really cool initiatives coming up. So we're doing global hubs. So essentially, we're going to be launching global hubs across APAC and also actually in Europe as well. And then eventually, probably like in Nigeria and other places. But specifically, what we're focused on is just education. You just need people to even know what is the move language. Why does it matter? People know about crypto in general, and maybe there's people that want to build in crypto. But what does that even mean, right? So for most people, especially if they're new, they have to like, imagine you walk in, you're like, okay, wait, there's different chains. Okay, so what's the difference between this chain and that chain? Oh, wait, they're different languages. Oh, wait, so what's the difference between Solidity and Move and Rust? Okay, and like, but why does that matter? So there's all this education that you have to do for people that, because I think for us, we live in a bubble where, a lot of people know a lot of tribal knowledge, but when you go out in the real world, you realize that people don't know crap about this stuff, right? So I think there's just a general education that has to take place, and that is the point of the hubs. One is just general teaching and education, but then also a place where builders can come together, bounce ideas off each other, have a common place to work, have a place where we can hold events and where people know that they can just come and build, and have support. So from my perspective, that's our biggest focus right now is just building these community hubs, and a lot of it will be built around actually the gorillas because they're such a ridiculously supportive community. So yeah, that's what we're going to be focused on.
Yeah, really glad to hear. And yeah, I think the hubs are a thing which might turn things like into the right direction. Getting new people into the chain, educate them, which is, as I said, very important. So yeah, with wrapping up everything, is there anything besides what we just talked about, like a most important message you would leave to the movement community?
If you haven't already, download a wallet, play around on chain, message me. I know I'm going to be opening up a lot of people, but just message me on Twitter. I'll send you some move for gas. But yeah, I just want people to just try out the chain and give feedback. Ultimately, a lot of people say stuff about movement, but I've never actually used the chain, which is the funniest thing to me. It's like saying I hate a food that I've never tasted. So at least come taste it and then tell me what you think. And for the users who are there, stay tuned. We have a lot of really big updates coming up, especially in the next month or so. And yeah, man, I'm always on Twitter. You can always message me, and hopefully we'll have some AMAs in Discord as well.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, maybe also on the Gorilla server at some time.
Yeah,
So
100%. Let's do it.
amazing. Then thank you, Torab, for showing up today.
Thank you, brother. You have a good one, and I appreciate the time.